Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we're joined by one of the best Pistons minds out there, Bryce Simon, aka Motor City Hoops, to preview the season of one of the more exciting Detroit Pistons, Jaden Ivey. This episode was a lot of fun, so let's get into it. Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we'll be previewing another trio of Pistons players for the upcoming 2025-2026 season. We're going to dive into Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris, and Ron Holland. And I thought, who better to get on, in particular to preview Jaden Ivey's season, as well as Ron, than none other Bryce Simon of Motor City Hoops, co-host of the Pistons Pulse, the Game Theory podcast, author of the Motor City Hoops Substack. Is there anything else you do, Bryce? Because you do a lot of stuff.
I mean, that's not how I make my money, but yes, in terms of this space, that is what I'm doing. I'm excited to be here. Always super proud of you and your growth, Jack, and everything you're doing and do for the community and the fans and all of that. Always super proud to see that, and excited to talk basketball with you, Pistons basketball with you.
Let's go. I mean, I'll be honest, the Game Theory pod for me, I just want to, obviously I love the Pistons Pulse, but the Game Theory pod, I'm sure, I think I saw the YouTube channel just hit nearly 70,000 subscribers. And I think I was with you at the 2023 Summer League, and you were with Sam. I don't know if that was the first time you met him or whatever, but I remember not long after that, we were DMing and you're like, oh, I'm going to be potentially co-hosting. So that was 2 years ago. So man,
yeah,
I think you are one of the best at covering the NBA and talking about players, but it's been awesome to see you on that platform as well. You and Sam do an amazing job. So I just wanted to shout that out as well. And of course, Amari. But
yeah, O2's the man. Yeah, I have a hard time. So I'm okay, I love Sam. I love O2, but I got to make sure I give them both love. I can't show any, it's tough. But no, it's fun doing both. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it.
I have to ask as well, before we get into Jaden Ivey, because that's who we're going to hit first. How have you found trying to cover all 30 teams? Because you guys did summer free agency previews. I'm sure you're going to be doing season previews for every team. How much work just goes into that?
Yeah, it's a lot. It helps when the Pistons are good, Jack, because then every game they play, as most people know, I watch all 82 Pistons games. But since they're playing competitive basketball, it gives me a better look at the other team, right? So, but I mean, I think I watched almost 40 full Knicks games last year by the time the playoffs were over. And when I say full Knicks games, I'm talking about notes. So anybody that's subscribed to the Motor City Hoops Substack knows how I do notes. They're not quite as intense, but I have to keep really diligent notes and watch every single team live games as much as I can, because when we want to talk about, I don't know, Alex Caruso, I can't be yeah, he's really good defensively, or even more so when we want to talk about Bilal Coulibaly, I got to have notes that I can go to really talk about when we talk about the Wizards or the not as good teams. So it is a lot of work, and we're doing NBA drafts on top of it, which is just a whole nother aspect of it. But I love watching basketball, and so there's not a whole lot else I'd like to be spending my time doing.
No, and you can tell, I think that's what makes you and Sam's dynamic so good, is obviously you guys have good chemistry, but you both just absolutely love the sport from college to NBA. So, all right, let's do some Pistons. That's what I'm assuming most of my viewers are here for. Jaden Ivey, I think he played 30 games last season before the unfortunate broken leg. Describe what you saw from him last year, where he grew, and we will talk about areas of improvement later, but just his season, what did you see from him?
I mean, in all honesty, Jack, it was probably the most disappointing part of the Pistons 24-25 season, and it wasn't J.I.'s fault, right? There's nothing he did wrong, but not getting that data collection on him. We all finally saw, I think you and I already knew, most people knew who Cade Cunningham was, and then the world got to see that. I think what it is what we saw Jalen Duren be at the end of the season. If people remembered, I know this isn't about Jalen Duren, but it does correlate. 25 games into the season, over on the Pistons Pulse, I was calling for Jalen Duren to get benched for a couple of games to kind of wake his butt up and see what was going on. Trajan mentioned 25 game sample and the end of the year presser. We got to remember J.I. got 30 games and then he got hurt. So who knows where he would have gone? Ideally, theoretically, it would have continued to trend up, but we don't know. And that's what was disappointing. I think the biggest thing that was encouraging was the 3-point shooting. And him being over 40% in those 30 games is very encouraging. The catch and shoot numbers. So I think that's where I would start in terms of that 30 game sample. That's really exciting.
No, I agree. There was like, and I even remember this is going way back in the preseason last season. Like he was the big standout. I thought, just the shooting was the thing that stood out the most. I thought his handle looked better, but like you said, like it's hard to recap his season without leaving at the fact that it feels like we cheated a bit. Once again, with one of the Pistons, like high lottery picks, they miss a massive chunk of the year, and I mean, it's one of the reasons they've kind of ended up with like a Ron Holland, because like a lot of it was probably poor roster construction, but they missed Cade for a season. Asar missed half a season. So yeah, it's hard to have the Jaden Ivey conversation without leading off. It's not even a negative because it's not his fault, but it's just like he's of like maybe the four. They're still just unknown because so much I feel like if his future with the Pistons depends in particular with how he can fit with Cade.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, Jack. I think, again, I know what I thought Cade was. I think a lot of people did. He finally showed it. So we can put that on. To me, it's just like, how good? Like, is he going to be MVP every year conversation, all NBA? You know, where exactly does that level fit? But to me, he's face of the franchise good. Asar Thompson has shown, like, if he can be healthy, sure, there's maybe some offensive stuff there that could continue to be more, but he's an all defense level player. He was in the top 20 in me and Sam's rankings when we did our, top defenders in the NBA. And I think J.I. and Ron, two guys we're going to talk about on this, are two of the wild cards, I guess, or X factors, whatever you want to call it. Because when you start looking for who's the number 2 offensive option with Cade, I think they need to find out if it can be one of those two guys before they make a trade for somebody else.
I agree. And it feels like this is Ivy. He's going to have,
yes.
And like, obviously we're hoping for health. Almost don't want to bring it up, but he's going to have, I'm not implying he's getting traded at the deadline, but I think he's going to have those 45 to 50 games to really come out and show that. And I'm not sure, we probably won't dive too much into the extension part of this, but I feel like Ivy in particular of those two is probably the one that won't sign one. It's feeling like neither potentially will, but still something to play out. But he's going to have a big 40 to 50 games in the lead up to the trade deadline. Once again, not implying he's getting traded, but I just think this is the real time for him to step up.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I've said, I feel like I continue to repeat the same thing, but I think since they finally were a competent basketball team, it's like, okay, we have some real data points. And to me, now it's time to go find the number 2, Jack. We know for sure who the number 1 is. There's some defensive infrastructure, some floor spacing infrastructure that can be, recycled if you don't sign guys long term. It is time. Cade is ready. You got to go find the number 2. I just don't want them to do it too early before we know if J.I. can be that number 2 or not. And I think the jury is still out on that.
No, I agree. And I would say, like, from listening to yourself talk about Ivy, you're definitely on the higher end of JI, sure. And yeah. I am as well. But I think what you said is so true. Like, it's time this is where we're going to see Kenny be that number 2. Because it's kind of the missing piece when you look at this young core. But maybe let's move on to the upcoming season. I think Ivy's going to start, but maybe let's talk about his role for the upcoming season, not just where he's in the rotation, but we kind of touched on it then, but how do you see his role with the team playing out?
I want them to give him that role, Jack. I think that is I still think they're a little bit in data collection. Like, yes, you want to win. You made it to the playoffs last year, and you gave the Eastern Conference finalists or a team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You gave them all they wanted, and you weren't even fully healthy, so you can't take a step back. But while that said, I don't want it to turn into not letting J.I. be the number 2 and find that out. So to me, he starts. And he is the number 2 option in that starting lineup behind Cade Cunningham. It's not Tobias Harris. Obviously, Cade's going to run a lot of action with Jalen Duren and stuff like that. And then you stagger him into the second unit. He should play every non-Cade minute. Every minute that Cade Cunningham's not on the floor, J.I. should be, with some, combination of Karis LeVert taking some of the ball handling, obviously the floor spacer and Duncan Robinson. Maybe you stagger a SAR into that second unit with him, like whatever you want to do. But that's how I envision his role.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I guess the other part of, his game from last year, you mentioned off the top, the 3-point shooting was probably the biggest improvement for him last year. 30 games isn't a pretty good sample, but it's not like a full season. I think in the end, it rounded out to around 41% on 5 attempts, I want to say off the top of my head.
Yep.
Do you think that is sustainable? Maybe not the 41%, but like that kind of good percentage from deep.
So here's where this all correlates really well. Over on the Pistons Pulse, we recently did our season stats prediction episode. So I have my JI stats prediction, and I don't think it's going to be 41%. I have it dropping down to 37, 38%, but the attempts going up to 6 per game. You mentioned, spot on 5.1 attempts from 3 last year in the 30 games. If he's at 6 attempts a game and can stay in the upper mids to upper 30s, 37, 38, like 36 would probably be the bare minimum. Even at 6 a game, though, at 36%, you can probably live with that, Jack. And especially on catch and shoot, that's the number that I always find important, because you mentioned it. Can J.I. play with Cade? And if you're going to play with Cade, you got to be able to play off the ball.
Absolutely. And I think he's been like pretty decent at playing off the ball so far. This probably ties into more like areas for improvement. What is kind of the one part of his game you would say, like, next season, if he could take a quote unquote leap in that area, then we are much closer to finding out that he can potentially be this second scorer or the ideal role this team needs?
So I think the ideal player next to Cade Cunningham is somebody that is enough of a floor spacer, averages 20 a game, and is at least neutral, ideally better than neutral defensively. So, the thing is, J.I. needs a little bit of improvement in all of those. I did this study where I looked at the last 10 years, the conference finalists from both conferences. So 4 teams, 2 in the West, 2 in the East. And what was the average points per game of the number 1 score, the number 2, number 3 score? Number 1 score was right around where Cade Cunningham's at, 25, 26, 27. Number 2 score, 20 points per game. So I want to see J.I. get close to that 20 point per game to be the player we're talking about and not be talking about trading him at the deadline, right? So I think to do that, Jack, I think it's the finishing at the rim on the offensive end. That's a big area. And then I want to continue to see growth on the defensive end the way we saw from Jalen Duren last year throughout the season.
I like that. And maybe you've obviously got a really good eye for this, especially better than myself. On the defensive end, what does it look like? What does an improved Jaden Ivey look like? Like, is it more off the ball? Is it on the ball stuff? Everything?
Yeah, I feel like J.I. he gets caught not intense, not locked in at times. There's even times on the ball where he's so athletic and he still gets beat with the first step because it's like he's slow to react, or he's not anticipating, or he's a half beat late because maybe he's relaxed for a second. And then that stuff definitely shows up off the ball. So why I get excited about him defensively still is he has the physical tools to do it. With that said, the non-physical things go back to the pre-draft scouting report on him, and that is what is a little bit scary. With that said, much like Jalen Duren, I know I keep going back to this, these 2 guys played for 3 coaches in 3 years. And I realized, like, Dwayne Casey, I thought was a solid coach. We all know what the Monty Williams experience was like, especially for Jaden Ivey. And then last year, he only got 30 games of JB before his season got cut short.
No, I love that you brought that point up, because I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty bullish on the team starting well this season, and I could look like a fool. But a lot of it is because of that continuity of not having a change of coaching staff, not having a change of front office, the roster, having, the same key young guys that are all now filling pretty big roles on the team. So I think that's huge for JI. And I guess, I know I kind of said we wouldn't talk about the contract thing, and I've heard you talk about it on the podcasts you're on, but what's like the ideal contract that you would like to see Ivy sign with the Pistons?
I mean, I would love him to sign for like 20 million, like four for 80. Sam uses the word delta, and the delta on Ivy is just so large because, so here's the thing. Is there a world where he becomes the number 2 scorer on this team, the number 2 option? I think we both believe there's a chance, right? Some people are going to say 0, some may say 5, some 20, whatever. Well, the number 2 scorer on the Detroit Pistons should be making 30 plus a year, right? Like you can pay that guy 30 plus. Here's the problem, Jack. Is there a world where J.I. is better off being the 6th man on the team? There probably is. And here's the thing. Malik Monk is making $20 million a year as one of the best 6 men in the NBA, and people don't want that contract right now, which I don't agree with, but I understand. So if you sign him 4 for 80, I think that can age well no matter what. But if I'm J.I., do I want to sign 4 for 80 and then give up that big of a discount if I become this team's number 2 scoring option? And I think that's what's hard with everything. I think that's where Jalen Duren's should be more likely to get done, because I think the delta of who he is as a player and his role on the team is smaller than what Jaden Ivey's could be.
No, that's a great way to put it, because like he could still, that, like you said, last season it felt like we're maybe going to get a really good sample and almost an answer.
Yeah.
Close to of like, okay, what role is he? But we didn't get that. And that's why, like Sam says, the delta, there's still such a range. So, I don't think an extension
Do
will happen.
you not say the delta? I assume this is an Australian thing, and that's why Sam used delta. He pulled it out one day.
Airline, that's it.
No, so like Sam brought up delta one day. I was like, well, that was random. We've never used this term, so I thought maybe it was an Australian thing. I thought maybe this would definitely hit with you.
I'll be honest, I haven't heard it, but that doesn't mean it's not a thing down here.
Okay.
I only know Delta Airlines.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, last thing on JI. Maybe, and this probably ties in well with the most recent episode you did on the Pistons Pulse, but your stat prediction for JI.
Yeah.
Rattle it off. And is there an award you could see him in the running for?
So I had him at 19 points per game, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal, half a block. I mentioned, 38% from 3, 45% from the field, 80% from the free throw line. And I'll just be straight up, like, I'm calling my shot here. I've been a JI guy from the start. I will readily admit, like we've talked about this entire time, this is probably it for JI in terms. Well, here's what it is. Either he becomes that guy that I just rattled off and everybody's excited. If he doesn't, then I think there's 2 options. He's part of the trade to go get that guy, or maybe J.I. is selfless enough that he becomes the 6th man on the team, and maybe he signs a contract conducive to that role. I think that's harder said than done with the team that drafted you, but it is possible. So I'm calling my shot that he is closer to, like, maybe it's not even the 2nd option, maybe the 3rd option, but he's closer to that than the other. We'll find out over the 50-game sample that you've mentioned a few times.
Yeah, no, it's going to be super interesting. I think those stats are all very reasonable. I think was he about 18 points a game last season?
So he was at 17.6 on 46, 41, 73, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So I'm not going crazy here. It is, a 1.5, 2 points a game more. 3-point percentage comes down a little bit. He shoots more. Maybe gets to the free throw line. And truthfully, Jack, I think the defensive end, because you look at that starting lineup, Cade to me is a plus defender for your number 1 option. Asar is one of the best defenders in the league. Tobias gets stuff done in his own ways. And Jalen Duren was trending towards being better than neutral defensively. J.I. can't be the worst defender in the starting lineup playing off of Cade Cunningham. So that's an important end of the floor for him.
Definitely. And it takes, I know some people don't like hearing this, and I certainly didn't play the highest level of basketball, but to really lock in defensively, improve, I feel like that takes a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy, but a lot of physical energy, which I think gets underrated sometimes with what that can take away from your offensive game. So JI averages those stats, but picks it up defensively. Like, that's a huge step in the right direction for me. But I think we covered Ivy really well.
Yeah.
It's going to be very intriguing. I'm excited to see him back out on the floor. That's going to do it, my friend. Appreciate you so much joining. I read it off the top, and we're going to have all the links in the description, but please tell everyone where they can find you and all the awesome work you do covering the Pistons and NBA and the draft.
Yeah, thanks. Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on BlueSky. Guys, go check out the Substack, motorcityhoops.substack.com. It's completely free over there. I never plan on making it anything other than free. I have raw notes. I have video breakdowns. I have some other contributors that pop in from time to time and provide content just, again, for free because they want to write about or talk about the Pistons. So just give it a subscribe and check it out. There won't be a lot of content until games start up again. And then the Pistons Pulse podcast, with my guy Omari Sankofa II, Wes Davenport. He's also doing the Pin Down Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel. Got to give them a shout out. Got to give Koo a shout out. He does great work as well. And then if you want general NBA draft, Game Theory podcast with my guy Sam Vecini.
I love it. Check it all out, guys. Substack's awesome. I recently subscribed up to that. So
appreciate
get
it.
amongst it, guys. Thank you so much again, Bryce. Excited for this Pistons season. But until next time, as always, go Pistons.